Welcome to the Heart for God podcast. With many years of experience pastoring and helping to start churches, Dr. Jim Townsley has some practical and biblical advice that can be a great help to you and your ministry. On this podcast, Dr. Townsley and other guests with special expertise cover a variety of topics. His goal is to help you lead your church to be a healthy, strong, and balanced ministry, and for your family to be happy, healthy, and living for the Lord.
Welcome to the podcast today. Thanks for joining us. And I have with me here, should I say my friend, my son, what do I say, Brother Corey Bane?
Both, I hope, appropriate. I've enjoyed being here for a couple of days, Doc. Thank you for letting me base out of Central here while I'm up in New England.
So this is his second home. He comes through here quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And
they're going to start charging me rent, I think.
But he has been a great blessing. And spoke in chapel, what's today, Thursday, yesterday. So he talked about the issue of time. And, you know, it's interesting. You brought out Psalm 90.
Yes, sir.
And years ago, 35 years ago, my mother sent me that verse in a brief message. And I started, from that date, I put down, if I live to be 70, here's how many years I have left.
Wow.
And so it started at 34.
Yes, sir.
And it's worked down to -1.
I was going to say, you're in the negative now, aren't you?
In the negative.
But you're still kicking. And it says if by reason of strength, 80. So.
Yeah, so I'm going for 80 now.
I love it.
But, you know, that's it kind of brings to mind we don't have forever.
That's so true. No, that's so true. You know, the Lord really impressed on my heart yesterday to speak to the young people, because I think that often, you know, particularly college kids, they think they got their whole life ahead of them, and that they have plenty of time and that they don't really need to have any urgency. But I think that passage speaks to, we don't know how many days we have.
Sure,
and we want to be using every day for the glory of God, and knowing that we're going to give an account for every moment. It's that stewardship principle of life, really.
Sure. And it brought to my mind David Brainerd. I think he was 29 when he died.
Yes.
Had an amazing work that influenced so many other people. People read his diary and they were inspired by him. William Borden was in middle 20s maybe, and died in Egypt on his way to China, but did amazing work, accomplished a lot of things. So hopefully, you know, you can live to be 80, 90, 100 years old or be effective up until then, but
yes,
you don't know.
Well, and I mentioned yesterday, just by way of illustration, you know, my grandmother was going to turn 100 years of age next March.
Something.
And in fact, both grandmothers still living, and they have such a long heritage of faith in Christianity and what they've accomplished in their lives through their families. And but I thank God for that. And I thank God for my dad, you know, who is now almost 80 and still faithfully serving the Lord as a chaplain and pastored for all those years. And, you know, I'm just thankful that God allows us to have every day to spend.
Plus,
you know,
you
for
started
Him.
Preaching or surrendered to preach at
13.
what?
At
the
13.
age 13?
Yes,
and
sir.
did you start preaching then?
I did. My father gave me so many opportunities as a teenager. Our teen group was very, very involved in bus ministry, a nursing home ministry. We did it kind of as a group. And so often those boys of us that were called to preach would take turns, you know, preaching. And when I look back at that and just the experience that was given, you know, to me. But I think it calls me to realize that, hey, this call is real. And I don't want to squander any day that the Lord has given me. Now I'm almost 56, you know, and we're down the road a ways, and we look back and thankful for the years. And you know, I'll even say this, you know, pastors may be listening, and take advantage of the years that your kids are at home, because I promise you they're so quickly gone.
So true.
It is so true. And we enjoy the grandbaby, you know, era of time, but boy, just looking back and all the memories of those kids and trying to train them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and now to see them investing in their children and training them in the ways of the Lord as well. Absolutely.
I think about Charles Spurgeon, just a young man, and was given so much responsibility. Think of others that, you know, they some of the people I look at as great preachers, great men, they were great when they were young. Absolutely. And I think there's a time when you have the energy and established foundation, if you don't do it early,
Yes.
it's rare to see someone do it later.
No, absolutely. And you and I do some similar work with going in and talking, particularly to younger pastors. And I spend a lot of time on the subject of time management and just helping them even to build a schedule. And what should that schedule entail? What are the key elements of a daily schedule, a weekly schedule, a quarterly schedule, an annual schedule, and making sure that all of the areas of life are cared for. The family is cared for, the personal life, the devotional life, the health, exercise, those kind of things. And then, of course, ministry, and what all of those areas are going to entail, sermon preparation and the administration part of it. So much of it, these young men, if they don't make a habit of scheduling their time properly, life's going to get away from them. And they're going to squander so many great years that God could be using them in the ministry.
So do you think a lot of young men just get overwhelmed with all the aspects of the ministry?
I think that's a part of it, but I try to help them break it down, and I teach them to take blocks of time. Study, for instance, should be in blocks, or we understand the phone may ring, there may be distractions, but if we can on a regular basis block 2, 3, 4 hours. This is my study time. These are my soul winning hours. This is time that I'm going to build in with my family. We do what we schedule, right? What we put in, what's important to us, and I think it's a matter of just making sure that we do what is priority and what's important.
So, how do they keep track of that? Is it on a digital calendar?
Usually the young guys are, and even myself, I live with a Google Calendar, and my calendar is my boss, and certain things that have to be done. But, obviously you can do it the old-fashioned way as well, and probably we all started with just a handwritten calendar or one of those things that laid on our desk that kept us organized. But to me, a digital calendar works because you can set alarms. When one block of time is done, an alarm goes off, it's like, okay, I need to now go to the next thing. And again, just teaching, young men how to do that. And I think college, you have college here. I think that is a good preparatory tool for them. Classes and study and being prepared for projects and then having to work and then having ministry. I think all of these things will help them as a young college boy to get very scheduled so that when they move over into ministry life, they are used to working hard. They're used to making the best out of the time and hours that God gives to us so that we don't squander our life away.
I think both of us are going to smaller churches, smaller ministry, try to help them. And one of the things that I was just in Indiana last Sunday over the weekend, but one of the things I thought about is they don't have a Christian school. They don't have a Bible college.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of stuff going on. You can walk on the property and it's vacant. There's no one there.
Absolutely.
And I ask myself, what do they do?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is going on?
Yes, sir.
I can call someone that has all these ministries, and he'll answer the phone. Mm-hmm. And I call these other people, and it takes weeks sometimes for them to get back to me.
Yeah.
How do we help some of these young men? Do they not realize that you have to work hard, or do they? Yeah. Are they doing something else? Are they playing golf? Well,
yeah. I think it does go back to a work ethic, and maybe our generation maybe have that. I don't want to say better, but maybe it was more important to us, or we were trained that way. My dad was a military guy before he went to the ministry. He was 12 years Air Force. So I think that military discipline, and he taught me that, and working hard. And let's just be honest, I think getting up early is such a key. Those early morning hours are so vital. I feel when I was pastoring, Doc, I was in my office at 6 a.m. every morning. That was my schedule. That was my discipline. I wanted those first couple of hours before everybody else got there to be my time with the Lord and my time for study and preparation. But back to the work ethic part of it. And to be honest, there are some younger guys, obviously, that maybe they're bivocational. And they have to work 20, 30, 40 hours a week. And I get that. I understand that.
Sure, that's hard.
But you're right. Some of these guys that maybe they have a church of 100 and they're full-time, you got to wonder, they don't have a school, they don't have a big staff. What do they do with that time? And could they be utilizing their time better so that that church could continue to grow and reach its potential?
So I think one of the things that happens is they get stuck on sermon preparation.
That's
I've
true.
had people tell me they spend 30, 40 hours a week on sermon preparation.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm not sure the preaching is any better than
Yes, sir.
because of it. They become more of a teacher and
Yes, sir.
an educational
Yes, sir.
approach.
You know, it's easy to hide in the office. You know, my dad used to say, that a pastor should not sit in the ivory tower, and nearly never come down to be with the people. I've said often, a shepherd needs to smell like sheep. And that means you got to get out of your study from time to time and be with the people that God has called you to and the flock that God has called you to lead. And, you need to build time into the discipleship. And you're with people one-on-one in the hospitals, in their times of bereavement, in pastoral counseling. So is there a time for study? Absolutely. My goodness, yes. And that's, again, why I feel that the sacrifice, you want to say it that way, maybe you getting up early, making sure that is done before the day actually starts. You're here, a big ministry, school and college and staff, and this is a busy place come 7:30, 8 o'clock. If you haven't gotten your study done, then you're going to feel as if you're going to have to choose. Well, am I going to be ready for my sermon on Sunday, or am I going to be with the people that need me, or the administration, or what does my staff need? Again, I think it just comes down to managing your life properly, your calendar properly, and putting things into priority so you make sure you get those things done first.
So my plan for the next podcast, I'm going to spend some time on sermon preparation. But
I love that.
I do think that is a challenge. And I mean, you think about it, they've got 4, perhaps more preparations in a week in some cases.
Right.
And, you're just worn out. You're tired after Sunday. And then Monday you wake up, it's like, oh, I've got Wednesday.
Yeah,
I got to prepare.
Well, that's what the sword of the Lord is for, isn't it, right? Just to go and get someone else's outline. No, I don't think you should do that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that the next podcast.
Yes.
But so maybe the work ethic, maybe stay in the office too much, not getting out. There's got to be a plan to build a church. I mean,
agree.
that's why you're there. It's not just status quo. It's not just functioning. There's got to be a vision. Here's how we go to the next step.
Yeah. Without a vision, the people perish. And I think that vision must begin with the leader. The pastor must develop and get from the Lord. What is, God, what is your vision? Let's remember, it's not our church. It's His church. We're just managers. We're just shepherds. We're just stewards of what God has given to us. And so we ask God for that vision, and then it's our job to implement that vision. And again, that goes to passing it down to our staff, making sure that our assistant pastors and those that work along with us, even our lay leadership, that they have been cast that vision as well. And then it's that time, going back to time again, spending the time with those lay leaders, spending that time in discipleship, spending that time in staff meetings, spending that time in making sure the vision is very, very known and evident. And then let's do what we can for the cause of Christ.
Excuse me. If a young man doesn't start out utilizing his time well, I mean, how much time does he have to get things going?
No, absolutely. And why would God give him a larger ministry if he doesn't use what God's given him to do in the beginning? And I think maybe sometimes a guy does get discouraged. Well, it's just I got a small church and I got got 25 people and that's just the way it's always going to be. It doesn't always have to be, because I believe that often, and I'm not saying that there aren't situations where a man, may have in a small rural area and a smaller church. And it's not just about numbers. I get that. But let's make sure that we're not squandering our time where we could be reaching as many people with the gospel of Jesus Christ to build His church. And that's so vitally important. It is our responsibility as a pastor, as a leader, as a shepherd, to make sure that we're utilizing that time wisely.
So the world's mindset is 9 to 5. You go home at the end of the day. The weekends you're off. 40-hour week, people will say to me, oh, I'm so worn out. I've worked 40 hours.
Yeah.
But in the ministry, it's really 24/7.
It is. No,
And
it is.
when we started the church, I know I spent more than 80 hours a week
Absolutely.
in a hurry, in a rush, trying to get everything done and reach people.
Absolutely.
And you can't do that forever, but I've almost done that most of my life.
I agree. And so
you know?
have I. So have I. I heard someone say it's not what gets done between 9 and 5, but what gets done between 5 and 9. It's those early morning hours before 9 and sometimes the evenings after 5. And I'm not saying, obviously, we want to keep balance of your family needs you and your wife, your children, obviously. Those are important and to not be neglected. But I also believe that God gives us 24 hours in a day, and maybe we just sleep too much. I think we sleep more than we think we have to. I think most of us could go on a few hours less sleep to get more done for the cause of Christ. Doesn't the Bible say in Ephesians, redeeming the time for the days are evil? And I believe in hard work. I believe in doing what we can while we have day. Because what's the Bible say? The night cometh when no man can work. And so I do believe in working hard. And my last pastorate, you ask all of my staff, they'll know, I regularly worked 75-hour work weeks. That's what it was. To run that large ministry and the staffing and the schools and to do what I knew I needed to do, I had to sacrifice, if I can say it that way, to make sure that I was spending the time with the gifts, the talents, and abilities that God had given to me so that the ministry could be what it needed to be for Him.
You think of Paul, what did he say? Night and day.
Absolutely.
That's how he labored, night and day.
Absolutely.
And it's not that you're physical labor every day, but there's the emotional part, there's a spiritual part, and many times there is the physical part.
That's right.
So it is taxing, it is difficult.
Absolutely.
So there's no doubt about it.
No.
But that is the ministry.
Absolutely. It certainly is.
And you don't want to look back one day. You've been in the ministry 20 years and you say, what have I really done? What have I accomplished? Before you know it, you won't be a young man anymore.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. Yes, sir. Well, thank you for bringing this topic up because I do believe, particularly for younger men, just to get in a good habit, a good life of schedule. And that's the thing. If we're lazy and there's no, and let's be honest, as a pastor, you don't punch a time clock. These young men, but here's what I always say to young preachers: but we have a much higher authority to whom we are responsible, and that is God. Jesus Christ is the head of the church, and we're going to give account for what we did with what was given to us.
So true. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your help and know you're suffering a little bit from something.
Yeah.
That
it's your allergies in Connecticut up here. I don't know. 2 years ago, I lost my voice same time, and same thing here. But God is faithful and true, and I'm just blessed to be able to travel the country and help pastors right now, and I love what God's given me to do.
Praise the Lord. Thank you for joining us today. God bless.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. You can also follow at Dr. Townsley on Twitter or on Facebook at Jim Townsley.